Hello, are we live? Let us check if we are live. Doesn't show up as live quite yet. Give me a second. Any moment now. Okay, and we're live. Okay. I would like, I was on a forum with people who have ordered the Desert Tech Bullpup, and there were some questions about how to sling. Dicks. Okay. There's Echo. Okay, that's muted. Okay, I was on the Desert Tech owners group discussing with people who pre-ordered the MDR, and there were some questions about how to sling a bullpup. And given that I have put a lot of thought into this and gone through a lot of trial and error to get a good setup, I figured I would try out and see what works. Welcome to the stream, Jared Walsh. So I'm going to try and show you how to properly sling a bullpup rifle, which is not the same as how to sling an AR or an AK. Totally different. Bullpups, due to the balancing and rearward nature, they really need a different setup for the sling. A lot of this will focus around the Irene Adaptive Sling, made by Mission Spec. Okay, let's hop into this. First, with a bullpup, unlike with an AR, you always want to mount at the rear and at the front. Like the middle section where you mount like near the buffer tube on an AR, that's no bueno for a bullpup. You want to have it at the rear so that when it's slung, it kind of hangs at the rear. I'm actually going to grab the rear sling point here. It just hangs at the rear, near your shoulder, ready for use. So it should hang somewhere in this range here, like that. On your strong side, so if you're left-handed, you sling it the opposite way. And you want the front sling point all the way at the front. Now you can also get a little doodad like this, just a little QD mount with a QD rail mount with a QD sling mount attached to it. That way, you can just pop it on your, I have a rail cover here, so you can just pop it on and have a sling mount point. Okay, so with this KSG, I have mounted in the rear a D-ring and a QD point at the front. For this PDR, I have again at the rear, there, and this QD sling mount point is for this PDR, so I have a front point there. Bear for the cringe of this not being all firearms. Again, rear point, and with this one, because there's no front rail on a FAMAS, I have a buckle that I can clip into. It works. Back to the KSG. Okay. So you always want to mount to the rear and to the front of a bullpup. That's how you sling a bullpup. You always do the rear to the front. I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of people try and do some stupid middle thing like they do with their AR. That's flop city with a bullpup. ARs are more tolerant of it because they're very front heavy, so when you sling to the middle, all you have rear of that is just the buffer tube, so it just kind of dangles normally. When you sling to the middle of a bullpup, the bullpup is more evenly balanced near that sling point, so it just kind of like dangles, and it's cancer, just trust me. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce, well, first explain why you mount to the front and rear. You reduce flop, it keeps the gun in the right place, like where you can use it. It allows you to be ambidextrous. In this case, this top point will sling to either side freely with a QD mount, will sling to either side freely with a QD mount. And this rear point, if I want to, it's pretty well stuck there, but I can also bring it across the bridge of the stock to bring it to the right side of the gun. So if I want to do a transition, it's on the right side of the gun now. And then while I swing it, this thing would swing to the other side and do this. Now yes, there's the chance that it lands in the middle for some reason and it's slightly less comfortable to shoot, but it really isn't anything I've had to deal with, and I've never taken this off, and I've fired it without a sling, and I fired it with a sling, and I've never had an issue with recoil being more painful than otherwise. Sometimes I get, like, you know, if I'm not holding it right, I get a little bruise in the shape of that thing, but in a defensive situation, that really does not matter. Oh, just for people who are worried, it is indeed empty. Safety Nazis. Okay. So next I'm going to introduce the sling that I use to sling all my bullpups, which is way better than every 1-point or 2-point sling I've ever tried. And that is this, the Irene Adaptive Sling by Mission Spec. Mission Spec is the manufacturer, Irene Adaptive Sling is the model. This one is in foliage or ranger green. They also come in black and tan / coyote / FDE, whatever. It's tan. They're all tan. This is tan. MDR is tan. I don't care. FDE, I don't care about the difference. Okay. It has, by default, mash hooks. There's 2 tabs on either side, and you squeeze them, separate it apart, and put your sling point in between. For example, you would mash, and then it's hooked. Now it's really secure. I've seen some sling points come undone. This thing ain't coming undone without the D-ring breaking. And I've never had a D-ring break. So it's really secure, which is why I use the mash hook for the rear point. Because I don't detach the rear point, unless I'm getting rid of the gun. For the front point, I use a QD point, which just snaps into the gun. Okay. Now, it has tons of friction stops, and it's fully adjustable. It's fully adjustable, and it really doesn't lose its shape. Once you set it, it stays there. There is this lever here for cinching it to a smaller size temporarily. And you can change how much this size changes. It has a quick release buckle, so that once you're in it, you just hit that buckle and you get to pop all out of it. By far the best part about the sling, other than converting between 1 and 2 point, is that it always remains attached to you. For a defensive situation, you don't want your gun, obviously, to be taken from you, and this really keeps that from happening. The gun is always anchored to you. Actually, I can demonstrate that really quick here. Okay. So I have the sling on, attached to the rear point, attached to the front point, and now it's on me. If I want to switch to 1 point, I pop out that QD, and it's still attached to me. And while I attach back to 2 point, it's always attached to me. That's the wonderful part that most of the slings miss, is this is always attached to you, but if ever I want out of it, I'm shooting and shooting. If ever I want out of it, quick buckle, and it's gone. So that's a quick demonstration. So the best part is, compared to a 1-point sling, it has about the same level of retention, but it allows you to change between 1 point and 2 point. It gives you much better ability to change shoulders. and it's far more ready because it's right here instead of dangling out in no man's land. Compared to a 2-point sling, it's way more secure because 2-point slings like to fall off your shoulder. And if you do a crossbody 2-point sling, then it's really not that accessible. Most 2-point slings, if it's crossbody and then taut to you, it's really not quick to get into action. This is, and that's what's great about it. Okay. So, I actually already opened up the Irene Adaptive Sling. So I'm going to put it, actually lower the camera. I'm going to put it back onto the KSG. And the Velcro tie. Now what I use is a Velcro tie. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get in place the first time. I use it to keep the sling taut while it is sitting next to my bed, so that it retains the sling. One of the problems I find with other slings is, let's say you have a 2-point sling, bring you back up here, size it correctly, that's good enough. One problem I find with the 2-point sling is when you have it on, the thing just likes to droop. And when you have it on, the thing just is droop city. It'll get everywhere, it might wrap around the charging handle, keep you from racking it. With this, I keep a Velcro zip tie. You can find them on Amazon for just a few bucks for a large pack of them. And you have this little Velcro pull tab that you just rip it off, and then your sling is ready for use. So the sling is stowed and taut. Normally I'd tie it tighter than this. I had it tighter at the start of the video, but I undid it. But it keeps the sling taut and out of the way if you don't want it, whereas you can just rip the Velcro off, or just pull the sling and the Velcro will rip off. You can just rip the Velcro off if you want the sling. So that's another nice part about the sling, and even without the sling, I do suggest looking into that for home defense, because a sling might be a liability if you don't want it, but it's there. Okay. So I have a Velcro tie. If I just rip that, it comes off. I'm going to show that right now. So I can just rip that, put it on, and if you observe, here's the Velcro that fell off. Oh, just in case you want to see. It's a little mangled up. And then I have a little loop at the end for a pull tab. And that's just a Velcro tie. It Velcros to itself. Velcros to itself. I use that to bind the sling. So, relatively easily, the sling goes from taut against the gun and unobtrusive to being available for your use. Now, in this case, I have it slung in 2-point mode by default. And I can press the sling to get into 1-point mode. Now you may think, well, you can't use it in 2-point mode. You absolutely can. You really aren't that restricted. Now it gets a little taut, so it does that old-style slinging method of keeping it taut for more stability. So you kind of got to rotate with your torso and not with your shoulder or gun. In 1-point mode, you have a lot more freedom and mobility, but it does droop lower, but you can still definitely get it. In 2-point mode, it's perfectly ready, right there for you to use. Gotta move the camera up. Ready for you to use. Again, this isn't just for the KSG. It works for every bullpup I've tried. Showed you an airsoft FAMAS and a PDR already. Obviously I don't have my MDR yet. Waiting on that. I'll do another video when the MDR comes out. Come on, Nicholas Young. May the RNG gods be on my side. Anyway, So relatively, it hugs your body, it keeps it straight. Now another thing you can do with this is, let's say you want to stow it. Throw it on your back, and grab this strap here. And you pull, and it cinches it to your back. So I'm going to release it. That's all floppy and normal. And I'm going to cinch it, and now it's tight. And yes, I can rotate it around, but it's not very usable like this because it's so tight. So, there's this buckle here. All you do is pull it up, and the gun releases. Like that. It's a great sling, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so can't wait to see the MDR video, Jared Walsh says. Yeah, I'm definitely going to make some MDR videos once it comes in. I ordered in 5.56/223. The actual chambering is 223 wild, by the way, which is, it accepts both and is more accurate. I ordered in 223 wild, so I have a ways to wait. Actual 308 MDRs are shipping to people now, but 5.56 is, according to Desert Tech, 3 months down the road. So, given 3 months, I'm assuming SHOT Show 2018. Okay, so what about different guns? Is this just tuned to the KSG? Well, I sized this sling. Oh, one thing you should know is when you get this, you want to size the internal ring. This ring that goes around here, you want to size that to your torso first. After that, you size this distance here to where you want the shotgun to be, where you want the stock to be. Then, you size this distance for how far to the front sling point. I always suggest you take it and you push it about an inch further, size it to there, and then bring it an inch back and pop it in, and then it will have just about an inch or so of slack for you to easily shoulder it. Okay, so what about different guns? Well, I'm going to toss this KSG aside. Hiya, Caleb's RC Crawlers. Nice for you to join the chat. I'm going to add this PDR this time. Clip in. Again. Sling to the rear. Sling mash hook to the rear. And QD point to a QD point on the front. There it is in camera. Bloop. Okay, so in this case, I can sling it around. Nice and tight. Release it. Now again, this one is sized for the KSG. So I have quite a bit more slack. Quite a bit more slack with this one. And this would be very applicable, this gun, this size would be very applicable to a P90 or an SBR. If ever I get the MDRC, that's how I'm going to set it up. Here I have FAMAS. Mounted through there. You got that ring hook. And in this case, because the FAMAS doesn't have a rail attachment point of any kind, I have to use this rail point here. So, to that end, I take off the QD, unbuckle the buckle, slide the mash hook through the buckle, and now I have a QD point-ish. It's not the same style, but still a buckle, and it's never released on me. It's pretty good. Again, same thing. Can shoulder it just fine. It dangles just fine there. Unbuckle it. Dangles there, still within reach. Not perfect, but it works. The one-point mode, as with all other things, really is for if you drop it while you are actively using it. The 2-point mode is for carriage. Sling it to the back. Cinch it tight. It's tight on the back. Release. Swing it forward. On target. Again, and just release the 2 parts. Put it back in. Undo that. That more or less covers the use of the Irene Adaptive Sling by Mission Spec alone, but I did have some questions to show it with the plate carrier. Caleb's RC Crawler says, Link, I don't own a bullpup, but if I ever do and want to sling it, I will be here first. Smart idea. I've actually gone through a lot of trial and error to find what works well, and trust me when I say the Irene Adaptive Sling is by far the best sling for bullpups, and I would still arguably call it one of the better slings you can get, even for a conventional rifle. Anyway, so this covers up for the slinging raw, like in home defense, but I did have some questions about use with a plate carrier. Here's my plate carrier. I've stripped it down for a relatively naked look, and I have the another Irene Adaptive Sling slung through the straps of this. I'm going to put this on really quick. Okay, so in this case, the buckle is here. It does nothing because the entire sling is strapped through the top straps and through the plate carrier itself because it helps take the weight off your shoulders. It's just, if you're carrying it for a long time, it really helps to have the weight taken off your shoulders. Okay, in this case, I still have the QD point, but for me, I put it between those two guys to keep it out of the way. I have the front sling mount point here, the rear sling mount point here, and there's my plate carrier. Now, let's do the KSG again. So the questions for how to sling, how it works with a plate carrier, attached to the rear, attached to the front, and it works very comfortably. It's as much as it swings around a little bit, it's always right where you want it to be. In this mode, the way I have it set up, run through the plate carrier, you can't shove it on your back anymore. So there's that. The trade-off is you get to wear a plate carrier, and it's a lot more comfortable because all the weight from the sling is distributed throughout the entire plate carrier. You can run this on top of and separate from the plate carrier, at which point you can sling it around your back. But then, as with most slings and plate carrier interaction, it starts to bind on, let's say you have a pistol here, actually. There, I got a pistol there now. This still works, actually I'll set it up how I normally would have it, about like that. This still works reasonably well. You can still shoulder it and fire it in 2-point mode. Rack it, no problem. What other stuff can I add? So I had some requests to do it with a filled plate carrier. Pistol magazines. Oh, just for those curious, this is a JPC, a jumpable plate carrier. Caleb RC Crawler says he has to go. Okay. Good luck taking apart the shotgun, sir. Okay. So I added a 30-round PMag and a 15-round imitation, not real PMag. And this, it still works pretty well. You can still totally shoulder it, can undo the front point, and it dangles, especially with the plate carrier, it dangles right where you want it. Now I like to have the pouch here so that it just kind of rests naturally there. It works really well for the KSG and a lot of bullpups. Once you get a magazine in here, it just kind of pops out a bit. Or you rotate it to the side and have the magazine sticking out here. So let's say this were, obviously is a KSG so it doesn't take mags. But, it'd pop out to the side a bit. So in 1-point mode, it's still perfectly where you want it. It always kind of flops back to where you want it to be. And it's ready. Haha! And then, back to 1-point mode. And it's secure. Let's take this off now. Okay, so back to a stripped plate carrier. So it still works really well. This is still adjustable for how tight or high up you want it to be. I have it down for more of a natural angle here. But if you want it like horizontal for some reason, you can just get this line really taut. So I'm going to try and do that here and just show as you tighten this up and as you shorten the string, it brings the muzzle farther up. It shifts a little bit inside if you want it to. I have this going outside here. If I put this through that loop there, it helps stiffen it up quite a bit if you want that. That covers most of it. So there's KSG with the plate carrier. Let's get the PDR again. So again, find your mash hook. Now getting the mash hook in isn't exactly fast, but the QD point is fast. I don't consider needing to get the rear undone to be that fast of a desire. What I want is fast transitions between front 1-point and 2-point. So here's with a PDR or P90 or a bullpup SBR. Again, it works really well. You can still shoulder it just fine in 2-point mode. And in 1-point mode, just kind of dangles right where you want it. Try and get to dangle a little bit, and it kind of resets itself. It's all about how you twist this up here. I have this coming like this, and I actually have a half twist going through here so that it likes to flip to be this way. So the next question you might have is, okay, but how do you set up the sling points? For me, for the 3 bullpups that I have slung this way, which would be PDR, KSG, and FAMAS, I go to Walmart and I buy for less than $1 1-inch nylon webbing. It's just a strap. You find it in the camping, hunting, hiking section. And it should come with at least 1 friction stop. I had one that came with a D-ring. I wrapped it in electrical tape so it doesn't flop around as much. And in this case, you find some place where you can wrap it around and you just wrap it a bunch. And you have it go through the friction stop multiple times to make sure that it's really well stuck there. This has never come undone for me. And then underneath all of it, you have the D-ring with multiple layers of nylon webbing behind it. So it can swing to either side if you want it to. So as you're using it, you transition and it naturally slings to that side, which is great. And when it's slung and just dangling there, it likes to dangle just about perfectly like that. Sometimes it'll be off to the side. For the most part, it likes to dangle just like that, which is perfect. And even when you shoulder it, this thing folds flat, and I've never really felt it when firing anything. Even the KSG, which is a lot of fun with 3-inch magnums, some really hot loads you can get, and it's still a lot of fun. And I've never really had a problem with the nylon straps or the D-ring giving me any issues. Anything else to cover? Cover the KSG. that should be it. Anyway, I hope this helps some of you guys with learning how to sling a bullpup. I really do suggest getting the Irene Adaptive Sling. It's a great sling. I highly recommend it. And after going through sling after sling after sling, the mag pulls, the Blue Force gear, and a lot of junky slings, the Irene Adaptive Sling is definitely what I came to for the best sling you can buy. Okay, I hope that helped you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to hit them in the comments or ask me for another stream. See ya!